There was one that I was watching this weekend that was a whole like lesson that made me super excited, right? And that was the Naomi, how you say her last name? Osaka. There we go. Naomi Osaka's docuseries on Netflix. Right?
Yeah.
We spoke about her before, of course, but the breakdown of this particular Netflix special was amazing. Like, to truly understand how great someone can be in a public light, but be so introvert, crazy. So let's listen to this mini trailer real quick, and enough that Netflix doesn't flag us. You know what I mean?
It's like an overnight superstar, and I think that pressure weighs heavily on her.
I think the amount of attention that I get is kind of ridiculous. No one prepares you for that. I don't know. I feel like I'm struggling.
So, fun fact. You know, Uninterrupted did that one?
Yes, I did. I saw Mav Carter posted on his Instagram.
That's big. That's big.
My guy.
2, I like the timing on it, right? Because, you know, she's said she's not doing a whole bunch of tournaments due to mental health. And so, not that, hold on, let me retract it. I don't want people to think like she's going crazy. She's just doing it so she keeps herself in check with her mental health. Not that she's struggling with it. I don't want people to be like, Nicky said she's depressed. No, I'm not saying all that. But there are a few lessons that I got out of this that you might like, right? One, saying things without saying anything. So meaning, remember when the Black Lives Matter situation was like at its peak and she wore the different mask, right?
Yeah.
So she has 7 masks, which would be for the whole tournament. She would play all 7 times with a different name, right? And the one of the people who interviewed her was like, "Yo, how do you think that came across? Like, I see you become a leader. How do you think it came across?" And she was pretty much saying, like, well, how did you think about it? Because the whole point was to get you to speak about it, like to get the world to talk about it. She didn't say anything, right?
Right.
She just literally wore the mask, different names and everything like that, and allowed her presence and her platform to do the talking for her. I was like,
it's like a silent protest almost.
Right.
I like that.
So that was one of the main lessons I got. Like, okay, for my introverts, you don't necessarily have to talk to get your point across.
Right.
You have to wisely use your platform, right? Make a statement without making a statement. It was so dope to how she broke that down, right? Now, 2, here's where I can understand. I was going to say something crazy. Let me retract that, because I was like, I can understand why people do drugs.
Wait. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
All right.
I was like, people do drugs and become alcoholics and everything like that when they become on top. The reason why is because people who become number one, regardless if it's quick, regardless if it's like, you have a pressure that is unmatched, right? And so you're looking at it like, I feel like I have to prove myself over and over again. So when you think about like how she came up, it was like, okay, is this a fluke? Do it again. Okay, she did it again, but is this another fluke? Like, it, to the critics and everybody, it was always like, you have to defend over and over again, and you're constantly proving. You're never to the point where it's like, yo, you're dope. You're good enough. You're number one. You're known as number one, right? I think, okay, so my question to you would be, when is it that you get stamped, yo, you good? Like, after this, you're great. Like, she's 20, now granted, she's 23. I believe she's won like 4 Grand Slams, right? She's done a lot in such a young age, right?
Mm-hmm.
My question is, does she have to like have 10? Does like you beat the one of the greatest
Right.
of that time, right?
Yeah.
One of the greatest of that time. And it's a constant, what's next? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Or could you do it again? Could you do it again? And I'm thinking about same thing with like rap artists. Like I even though Drake is top, clearly, decade, the artist of the decade, this, that, and the third, when he drops, and if it isn't number one, they'll instantly cream him and be like, yo, flop, duh, he lost it, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, wait, yo, that pressure.
Crazy.
And I can understand why some people are just cool with a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can understand. I don't condone it. Don't get it twisted. But I can understand. Yo, let me coast right here, because the constant go. Oh, that's exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And I think when it comes to a conversation like that, you really got to understand media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know that anyone is ever going to achieve something to arrive at a certain status where they're like, okay, they're great now, right? The way media works is to always create some form of narrative to keep people intrigued, to create some form of hype, right? So that they can push their stories out there. So I think that's what always happens. So when you think of many of the greats, right? Like, everyone's been bashed. You talk about Drake, LeBron, still getting bashed till this day, no matter what he does, no matter what he wins or doesn't win, right? There's always something to compare to. Right. I think even when we watched The Last Dance, we saw how MJ was also portrayed and there were stories happening. So I don't know that that's probably a good metric to look at. You know, like, I think people who are true fans and supporters of the sport, they understand some of the accomplishments. Like, she's won her first title, I think, as a teenager. She might have been 15 or 16 years old when she beat Serena in the US Open. Right. So, like, you know, you got to think about that as like, well, hold up a second. That's still a major accomplishment. You know, some years go by and she's still in the sport, obviously dominating, and pretty much decided to step down on her own. So, yeah, I think when you look to the media to give that stamp, I don't think they'll ever give it until retirement. I think when somebody retires, that's typically when they're like, okay, bet, let me kind of give you some of the respect that you deserve, kind of thing.
No, that makes sense, but it's just like, man, there's one statement she made, and if you haven't watched it, please watch it. Like, seriously, watch it. It's really, really good. Especially if you're an introvert, please watch that, right? But there's one thing she was like, yo, before the limelight, like, I could win and, you know, it's kind of under the radar. I can win, I can lose. It's no big deal, right? Now, because I won that particular Grand Slam against Serena Williams, like, now it's like constant. It's constant lights. It's constant, like, okay, we're going to shoot this. We're going to do this. You got to talk to these people. You got to do this. And it's like, and she said it even in the trailer, like, yo, no one prepares you for the attention. No one prepares you for, let's say, for like us common folks, for the viral moments and what that would come with, right? We could hear it. We could look at majority of the greats, but until we truly experience all that attention, like, we're not really sure like as a boxing fan, it's like you're all prepared until you get that first punch. Everybody knows how to fight until they get hit, right? So it's the same thing. It's like, yo, we could want this, right? We could want, I want the fame. I want the attention until you can't even go to the restroom. Until like you just trying to get to your locker room because you crying because you just took an L and you have to do 4 or 5 different interviews in between.
Right.
What was dope, like what was that kid tennis with Coco, right? When she beat her, right? And she Coco was crying, right? She was like, yo, let me do this interview with you because I've been here. Like I felt how you felt. So don't worry about it. And she was like, Coco was like, yo, I just want to cry. Like I didn't even want to do this interview, but she's here telling me to do it.
That's what's up.
Right?
Yeah.
So once again, showing that kind of leadership thing. But I think we look at the celebrities and be like, once again, this is what you asked for, right? This is what what you've trained for your whole time. And then I thought about it. And I think a lot of people, right? Like she was doing tennis since she was like, I don't know, like 2 or 3, like mad young, right? They showed footage of it, mad young. But sometimes it's just for fun. Sometimes it's just a passion. Sometimes, because of the talent that you have, you may do it because that's just part of you. Are you really doing it for the fame or just because it's part of you? So it's like, yes, to the outside world, okay, you came to this fame, you knew what you were getting into, you knew this lifestyle, you got to do 19 million interviews, this what. But I respect her more after watching this because it's like, no, I didn't know. Like I understood, but not really. And I, at the end of the day, have control of my mental and what keeps me safe and what keeps me whole, and here's I really wish you saw this. She was homeschooled. So the only people that she really talked to was her parents and her sister.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Which makes sense why she's so introverted too.
Right. So she's super comfortable around them, but it's like a struggle for anything else. And you could hear it. She's done great, but like almost to the point where it's like, human interaction is super needed, especially if you are that talented and you are about to go out to the world and become, one of the greats. It's a really good, I'm not going to break it all the way down, even though I said I did, but now everybody go watch that. There's so many different lessons from it that I didn't mention. Maybe we'll mention on the after show. I don't know. We'll see how I feel. But yes, go watch it. YouTube Moose.
But I will say that for some people, honestly, I think for myself, the greatest thing that's ever happened is not making it professionally in something you're passionate about. And I say that specifically to children because I think about even myself who was like obsessed with baseball growing up. I'm talking about absolutely obsessed with baseball. And then you look at, especially as you get closer to the industry and you can work with some people in the sport and you learn more about the business side of baseball or the business side of professional sports in general. And you're like, man, that's an ugly business. Like I'm actually fortunate that I didn't get to live that side of it in a way because my perception of the game would have been totally different. And then as you look at somebody like Naomi, it's cool that she has the ability to step back and not think about, oh, well, I have to keep playing because I need the money. And I think there are other sports where some people don't have that privilege or luxury to be able to say, I'm going to step back and not lose out on anything. Right? You look like and of course it's a different example, but I just look at someone like a Colin Kaepernick, for example, right? Like, yes, he stepped away from the game for different reasons, but he also wasn't allowed to come back in, right? So like there are a lot of other sports that you don't have that luxury where you could be like, I just don't feel like playing right now. It's like, nah, well, if you don't feel like playing, you're going to leave for good. So I think it's great that she's a part of a sport like that, because I don't know that that's something that happens regularly. Like, I mean, maybe in the sport of boxing or a fighting sport, combat sport, that's more common because you can schedule your fights out, to give you that type of break or something like that. But think about it, in professional sports, like it rarely happens where someone can just break away, get their stuff right, and come back. So I think the fact that she has people around her who can help her navigate and make that decision, because again, I think she's only probably 20 right now, I believe. Yeah. Oh, 23? Mm-hmm. Oh, gotcha. So yeah, I think that's a great benefit to her. And I'm curious to see if she comes back, how things are going to go when she comes back. Like, these are all things that I think can almost create a new wave for new athletes as they enter industries, because then she'll be an example to follow after. Like, oh, it's okay to break away from the sport and live the rest of your childhood in a sense, because you technically were robbed of that experience if you had to jump to the pros as a teenager. Right. So yeah, I'd be curious to see how the next couple of years unfold.
There was I know she did a Grand Slam during the pandemic. And I was like, oh, she gonna win, because there's no audience. There's no audience.
Nobody understands. Yeah.
That was the 7 mask and everything like that. I was like, oh, she gonna kill. There's no audience. She did amazing. I think there was like one slip up, but she did amazing. I was like, okay, so more on the after show, because I have a question of like, when you are protected inside, is that one of the secret sauce of becoming great? I'm just saying, when you're on no distractions, we saw Michael Jackson and all these, but they not. But after show conversations, you know what I mean?